What up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trade Review. And today I'll be talking about the trade that I took on Audchf. And I'll be explaining my strategy, the things I saw, the confidence I used in taking the trades, and I'm sure that before the end of this video, you surely pick some things that you need that you also add to your trading journey. And so, without wasting much of your time, guys, let's quickly dive into the charts. So here on the chart, what I normally do is this is Audchf, and I took this trade I took this trade in February. I think 6th of February thereabout. We'll get there. So what I like to do is I make sure to always start my multi-time frame analysis from the higher time frame. And when I say the higher time frame, I mean the monthly and the weekly and the daily. These three time frames are the time frames I stick to in making my analysis: the monthly, weekly, and the daily. So after identify the reason I use this time frame, this higher time frame, is to identify the trend of the market. By doing so, I will make sure to trade following the trend, not to trade against the trend. So what I did was I went down to one time frame lower, which was the weekly, from the monthly to the weekly. And on the weekly here, we had this zone. This right here. This right here is a support. You can see this is now a support here. This zone. So on this support, it might be nothing here, but if you go down to the lower time frame, such as the 1 hour or the H4, you clearly have a break of structure. Something like this. This indicates that the lower time frame is now in line with the higher time frame as well. So when you get this, you want to open the trade to buy. You want to buy from these zones. When you get this on the lower time frame, you want to buy. Same thing when you get it on the lower time frame, you also want to sell. So this same thing is applicable to a downtrend, on a downtrend. So what I did was went down to, after identifying the trend, marking my weekly zone, I went down to the daily time frame. Yeah, so I went down to the daily time frame, and on the daily time frame, what I did was I marked this right here. This is our resistance break turned into support. In my upcoming course, I explained this thing. I explained this. You have something like this. This is a support break turned into a resistance. Support break turned into, now this is a resistance break turned into support in this case. So this is what we call the SNRO. The resistance break turned into support. So now on this resistance break, I expect the price to pull back on the daily time frame here and then turn into a support zone, so I can continue the buy to the upside. So in this case, I can't just because I have this zone now, this support, and I have this resistance break turn into support, and I have another. Let me use this. I have this resistance break here turn into support, and then I have another support here formed below here. So just because I have this zone doesn't mean I'll just place my entry below here and then have my stop loss below any zone. No, I have to go down to the weekly, to the lower time frame, such as the H4, to refine these zones to the lower time frame point of interest as well. I have my daily point of interest. These are my key levels. Now I have to go down to the H4 to refine these zones. Yeah, let me shift this. Let me just take it off. Yeah, I have to go down to the H4 to refine this zone. So going down to the H4, I think in this case I use the trend line. I use the trend line here, and I will be explaining every strategy I use here. So on the 4-hour time frame, come on, load, what's going on the 4-hour time frame? Sorry about my network is lagging. on the 4-hour time frame, you can see this first line that we had here. This first line here, this first line, you can see that there was nothing there. So you had to do the refinement to, I think I did the refinement to this let me use this, to this support right here. Yeah, I did the refinement here to this support, and this was the daily support we had as well. So I'll be taking this line off because there's nothing here. I refined this zone from the daily to here, down here to the H4, and I was also supposed to refine it here, but I did not refine this H4, this last daily support. I didn't refine it. I left it that way. I would have also refined it, but I'll explain why I didn't refine it as time goes on. So here I was able to place, I was able to spot out the trend line. Okay, I use the trend line confluence in this case. So when I'm drawing my trend line in the SNRO, you use the line chart. You draw your trend line from the line chart. We don't use the candlestick because of the wick. So now you want the method I draw my trend line is engulf. I make sure that every point I get an engulfing candle, that's where I'll draw my trend line. So if you look here, this candle on the H4, this candle here, this candle right here got engulfed. This candle got engulfed, yeah, and then we have another engulfing candle here, right here. So now that we have this engulfing candle and this engulfing candle, that shows that my trend line is valid. Then I drew my trend line from the first touch, the second touch, and the third touch. The third touch was clearly in line with the daily support. With the daily support right here. The third touch was clearly in line with the daily support. But like I said, I didn't just place my entry on the support, because previously, before now, I missed about 2 trades actually. I didn't get triggered. The market was just going to the direction, and then I missed out the trade because I refined it so much. So I didn't refine this level. Instead, what I did was I placed my entry on the first result, and then I'll call this the first result here. I placed my entry on the first result here, and then since the first result wasn't too far from my second result, I had my stop loss below the first and the second result, the second result I'll be calling my final results. Okay, the pieces low, so I'll make this video fast. This is going to be my final result. So I had my stop loss below my final result, and then I placed my entry here. I hop on the trade here, had my stop loss below, and then I did a nice, that was how I was able to catch a nice 1 to 3, and then I exit the market. The market was clearly in an uptrend, but one thing you need to know is you need to know when to exit the market. As you can see here, I exit the market before it started dropping. Immediately I got out here. I got out here, this zone. The market started dropping back. So if you are impatient or you don't know where to take your profit, the market will come down, then you start being scared, and you might end up, if you don't know the direction of the market, you might end up closing your profits around there. Then next thing you see, the market started going back up, you have this drop again, and then you start going up. So if you are the type that trim your stop loss, you definitely get stopped out. Immediately you have this break construction and you're like, okay, I need to lock profits around there, you will get stopped out. So the best decision is to know where to place your TP, and when to place your TP, and when to exit the market. So that was what I did here. That was clearly what I did here. And if you're also the type that like to use multiple entries, I advise you take partials and then leave runner at break even. In this case, break even was never hit till it gets to this level. So that's how I was able to cash this nice 1 to 3 trade on AUD CHF. So I don't want this video to be too long, like I said, but the strategy I use is the SNRO, the SM, the SNRO. I also added the market structure to be able to know the direction and the zones. Here you have this break of structure. So when you have this break of structure, you expect price to retest back to the higher time frame point of interest, then before you can start following the trend. So I added this, and then I added this trend line. I don't talk about trend line very much, but I had to mention it here. I use the trend line as confluence. No, the trend line is not my the trend line is not my the trend line is not my confirmation. The trend line is a confluence. And then if you also use the Fibonacci retracement, which I didn't use here, but if you like to use the Fibonacci, you can see mark from the high that gave this low, the low that gave the high, to the high. So from this low to this high, you want to wait for price to come back into your premium zone. Anything below this discount, anything below the 50% zone it's a discount zone. So you want to wait for price to come down into this discount so you can start buying. So you can see our entry was below the 50%, which is this green line. And the same in the other case, if you're also selling, you want to wait for price to go back into the premium zone before you can start selling. So here I waited for price to come down to the discount. This is the Fibonacci retracement below the 5. My entry was right below the 0.5 level. So yeah, all these things are confluence. All these things were confluence to my zone. So if I had waited to take the trade from here, I would have had a pretty nice risk reward. If I had my stop loss below here and my TP right here, that would have been a 1 to 5. But like I said, I didn't want to miss out the trade, so I had to take my entry from the first result, and then my tip will below the second result. So that was it, guys. That's the end of this video. So stay tuned and see you in the next video. That's the end of the video. If you were able to watch the video to this very time, I want to say a very big thank you to you. So before leaving, kindly hit the sub button, turn on the notification bell, so whenever I drop educational videos like this, you'll be the first to watch it. And also drop a comment, share this video to as many people as you think you need to learn from this. And so yeah, peace.